Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank all of you. Director Wells, the Clean Air Act is built on the principle of cooperative federalism, where you work together. We have 3 state regulators here who know their states very well, know the different regions, and know the different impacts of all kinds of environmental impacts and other impacts. Normally, when you're developing a state implementation plan, do you get in your written testimony, you say basically that the EPA air quality, the head of the EPA's air quality policy division, basically said, "I don't care what you write, you're not going to get there." Was that the message that was received by Mississippi, and is that the norm when you're developing your own state implementation plan to be able to meet these the Good Neighbor Rule challenges?
Well, I think that was included that in my testimony, right, because I think it was a candid admission on the part of EPA that they were hell-bent on imposing this rule without the typical cooperative federalism approach that's taken. As I alluded to, we put together what we thought was an approvable SIP based on information that we had at the time, and then EPA changed the rules on us after the game was started, and that was the problem. And so typically, yes, we would have an opportunity to reach a consensus, if you will, on what the modeling should say or what the impacts might be or really are, and then let's address it once we have a common understanding, if you will.
Yeah, Ms. Peters, was your state implementation plan rejected as well?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Capito. We are awaiting a final determination from EPA.
And how long have you had that in?
I would have to get back to you on that. I'm not exactly sure.
I know there is a time window that it's supposed to be met. Mr. Noe, we talk about social cost of carbon. We talk about pollutants, and sometimes it's difficult, I think, to understand how some of these calculations are being made. And so I guess I would say, as the representative for sort of industrial resources, you have 90,000 people that work in your industry. Is that what you said?
925,000.
I dropped a 0 there. Sorry about that. That's a big difference.
Yes, let's not do that.
Let's not do that. Oops. I heard the 9. Anyway, how do you envision, I mean, most of, at least the paper mills and everything in my state, they're smaller companies. Many of them family owned. They've been in business for a long time, or at least the ones that are, they're not the large paper mills. They're doing, getting the lumber ready for the paper mills, I guess, preparations. How are people going to be able to, number one, interpret this, but also to meet those challenges? I mean, to put the anti-pollutant devices in and around your factory is, what's the calculations of the cost? $14 billion for the whole rule, but for a paper mill, for instance.
Well, thank you for the question, Senator Capito. I guess I would say you raise a lot of very important points, which is, our industry to be successful has to compete in a highly competitive global marketplace. So, and we don't dispute at all the issue that we are and will continue to be a heavily regulated industry. And we've cut our NOx emissions by 50% under 9 other EPA rules and programs.
And I assume you would continue doing that.
And we will continue to make progress.
Right.
And that's our goal. But it's so critical to the point the chairman raised, both of you, that we've got to have balance, we've got to have common sense here. And in the case of this rule, there are a number of problems with its application to our industry. There were a number of EPA errors about our industry, which we tried to correct and frankly were ignored. But let me tell you just one fundamental one. I think we could all agree that industry should meet proven technologies. That's what EPA said was happening here. But in our case, the technology, selective catalytic reduction, it just isn't proven for our industry. They made a mistake in that regard, and that's a fundamental mistake. So that's what we're here for, is common sense. So I embrace both what the chairman and you said about that, Senator, and I thank you for the opportunity to be heard on that.
Thank you.